Most people are unknowingly trading their entire retirement for a badge of status sitting in their driveway.
Every weekday morning at 8:47, Marcus pulls into his company lot behind the wheel of a sleek, dark, gray German SUV he started leasing last year.
The invoice hits his inbox like a hammer at $839 monthly for a 3-year agreement.
He chooses a parking spot directly facing the glass-walled executive suite, ensuring that when the senior partners look down, they see a man who appears to be winning.
Marcus works in high-level advertising. He takes home $94,000 annually.
Whenever a prospective buyer visits the office, Marcus volunteers to walk them out, lingering just long enough for them to notice the leather interior and the badge on his steering wheel.
That vehicle isn't just transport, it is a fragile ego wrapped in precision engineering, a mountain of debt he can barely service.
But there is someone else in that same lot who knows a secret Marcus hasn't learned yet. Elena parks in the far corner of that same asphalt at 8:22.
She operates a 2020 sedan she picked up used 3 years back for $22,400 in cash.
There is a noticeable scratch on the side door she hasn't bothered fixing because it doesn't change how the engine runs.
Elena works at the same firm as Marcus. She is the director of logistics. Her salary is $112,000. Marcus has a total net worth of $17,000.
That includes his maxed out cards, the heavy lease burden, a loan from a tropical getaway he took last July, and a retirement fund with only $8,200 because he only saves 2%.
Elena's net worth is $1 million. Marcus looks wealthy. Elena actually is wealthy. They share a building.
They earn similar salaries. The massive chasm between their financial lives is constructed from a decade of tiny, differing choices.
And the most glaring difference is parked right there in the morning sun. One opted for a facade, the other prioritized freedom.
The car was the exact point where their paths diverged. This video explores why the truly affluent in this country almost universally choose vehicles that would shock you.
It isn't that they lack the funds, it's because their perspective on capital is fundamentally detached from the average consumer's logic. The car is simply the most obvious manifestation of the mindset that created their fortune. Let's look at the data.
The typical price paid by millionaires for their most recent car was just $31,367. For those with over $10 million, that figure only rose to $41,971.
Consider the context. The standard price for a new vehicle in today's market has surged past $48,000.
This means the average citizen is spending more on their commute than the average millionaire.
One major study found that 61% of households earning above $250,000 annually drive brands like Toyota, Honda, or Ford.
61%. These are families who could easily purchase a luxury SUV with a single check, yet they choose to drive a Civic or an F-150.
Only a minority, 39%, of high-earning homes chose luxury badges at all. The favorite brand among the wealthy.
Toyota followed by Honda and then Ford. Mercedes didn't even crack the top three, only 23. 5% of millionaires owned a vehicle from the current year.
Most drove cars at least 2 years old. The average millionaire is seen in a 4-year-old vehicle with about 41,000 miles on it.
These people aren't struggling. They simply understand a reality that American marketing has trained you to ignore.
A car is a wealth-killing machine that loses value while you sleep. Unlike a home, which usually gains value, a car begins bleeding equity the second you drive it off the lot. A fresh vehicle drops roughly 20% in value during the first 12 months. By the 5th year, it has evaporated 40% of its cost.
By year 7, most are worth less than a third of the original price. The standard monthly car note has now climbed to $767.
Many people are now carrying obligations over $1,000. 7-year loan terms are becoming the new normal.
This means millions are making payments on an asset worth far less than what they owe. They are trapped underwater.
They are sending this money to a bank every month instead of putting it into an account that grows. Let's look at the math, because the math is where the truth gets painful. Marcus leases his SUV for $839.
Over 36 months, he hands over $32,104. At the end, he has zero equity. He returns the keys and signs a new lease because driving a normal car would feel like a social demotion.
He will likely do this for 30 years, paying nearly $1.00 a month for something he never truly owns.
Elena bought her sedan for $22,400. She keeps it for 8 years. Her total cost, including maintenance and insurance, averages out to about $330 a month.
After 8 years, it still runs perfectly. She sells it for $9,000, buys another reliable used model, and repeats.
The difference between Marcus and Alina is roughly $500 every single month. $500. If you invest that $500 monthly at an 8% return over 30 years, it grows to roughly $745,000.
Think about that. $745,000. That isn't a theory. That is the mathematical result of the gap between a $800 payment and a $300 payment compounded over a career.
It is the difference between retiring with total freedom or retiring with constant stress. It is the choice between independence at 60 or working until you're 75 because of a machine in your driveway that you bought to impress people you don't even like.
Elena's $1 million net worth didn't come from a lottery win or a massive inheritance. Most millionaires are self-made.
Elena is one of them. She built her fortress in the gap between her income and her lifestyle. The car is simply where she guards that gap most fiercely.
Her vehicle choice alone accounts for over $600,000 of her total wealth. One recurring decision, repeated every 8 years, did most of the heavy lifting.
Data shows that 94% of millionaires live consistently below their means. 1/3 of them never even earned a six-figure salary in their life.
The most common jobs for these wealthy individuals: engineers, accountants, and teachers.
Teachers, often considered underpaid, show up on these lists more than surgeons because the job title doesn't dictate the wealth.
The gap does, and the car is where most people let that gap bleed dry. Why does the car separate the rich from the poor so effectively?
There are 3 specific reasons. First is magnitude. A car note is usually the second largest cost in a household.
$767 a month is more than most spend on food or their own future. When this one expense is inflated by $500 above what is necessary for transport, it kills every other good habit.
You can skip the lattes and cancel Netflix, but those are pebbles. The car is the boulder. You cannot save your way out of a massive car payment.
Second is duration. Unlike a fancy dinner, a car payment is a multi-year drain. It's an automated extraction from your life that lasts nearly a decade.
Because it is automatic, your brain gets used to it. You stop feeling the pain of the money leaving.
You accept it as a cost of living, but it wasn't a cost of living. It was a choice you made one Saturday afternoon that now steals your capital for 84 months while the asset rots.
Third is social gravity. No other purchase carries this much psychological weight. Your car is seen by everyone: neighbors, colleagues, dates, parents.
It tells a story about your success. Usually that story is a lie. The audience sees a luxury badge and assumes wealth.
They see a 5-year-old Toyota and assume struggle. Most people would honestly rather be broke in a fancy car than wealthy in a boring one.
Marcus is the perfect example. His car costs $839 plus higher insurance and premium fuel. His total transport cost is over $200 on a $94,000 salary.
That is 15% of his gross pay going into a depreciating metal box. Experts suggest staying under 10%.
Marcus is 50% over that line every single month. Elena's total cost is about $480. On her salary, that is only 5%.
She is half the recommended limit. The difference is roughly $8,300 a year. That is a yearly transfer of wealth from Marcus's future to the leasing company.
Elena takes that same $8, $300, and feeds an index fund that compounds until the numbers become life-changing.
There is a specific group of wealthy people called used vehicle shoppers. They have the highest net worth to income ratio.
They didn't become frugal because they were rich. They became rich because they were frugal. The car wasn't a sacrifice. It was the engine of their wealth.
Look at the icons. Warren Buffett famously drove a car he bought with hail damage because he saw no point in paying for cosmetics.
Mark Zuckerberg drives vehicles in the $30, €0 range. The founder of IKEA drove an old Volvo for 2 decades.
These aren't stunts. These are patterns. To them, a car is a tool to move from A to B. The second it becomes a status symbol, it becomes a liability, not just to your wallet, but to your mind.
You start making choices based on what others think. Spending in anticipation of being wealthy makes you a slave to your job.
Marcus drives the SUV because he thinks he's on the path to success and wants the visual proof. But the proof is what's stopping the progress.
The preview is eating the movie. I know the common objection. I need something reliable. Let's look at the reliability data.
Brands like Toyota and Honda are engineered to last 200,000 miles with basic care. A 3-year-old used model has already survived the biggest drop in value, but still has a decade of life left.
That is the sweet spot. A study found that 35% of people think you need a $75,000 car to be considered rich.
In reality, 90% of actual millionaires would fail that test. Let's run one final comparison. Person buys a new $48,000 car every 6 years. Over 30 years, they spend nearly $200,000 just on the purchase price. Person B buys a $22,000 used car and keeps it for 8 years.
They spend $60,000 over that same period. The savings $140,000. But when you invest the difference, that $140,000 turns into nearly $1,000,000.
That is why the wealthy drive $30,000 cars. It isn't about being cheap. It's about math. This decision is an identity anchor.
In a culture that equates spending with success, the person building real wealth looks ordinary and the person destroying it looks impressive.
Truly wealthy people have made peace with being unimpressive to strangers. They know the compliment economy is a scam.
Every dollar spent to impress someone else is a dollar stolen from your freedom. Marcus is 34. If he changed his habit today, he'd have an extra $873,000 by 60.
One decision, Elena started at 26. Her car gap fund alone is worth $368,000. The difference isn't talent, it's awareness.
Changing your car changes your entire financial philosophy. When you drive something below your means, you start seeing every other expense differently.
The big rock moves and the pebbles follow. Wealth isn't what you drive, it's what you keep. If you found this helpful, please hit the like button for wins of thought.
Your investment account remembers every dollar you give it, even if the parking lot forgets your car the moment you leave.
Are you ready to stop performing wealth and start building it?